got a question. Ask Tom on Home Show Radio.
This is Home Show Radio live on Facebook and YouTube. Your questions, Tom's answers. Now here's Tom Tynan and Charlie Mosier.
Well, I've been thinking all week how I'm going to start this thing differently. Yes, here we are. I wanted to start it with a bang. I wanted to really start it with something big. And you know what? I got nothing. I really don't. Okay. So I'm just going to tell you, I'm Tom Tynan. I do home improvement questions on the radio, on Sports Radio 610, which I'm very proud of. 34 years, going to 35 in October. We'll start about the 35th year then. I do it with Charlie Mosier from Mosier Media. We're on Saturdays 9 to 11, 9 to 12, Sundays 8 to 11, Saturdays 9 to 12. And Danny Milliken, our gardening expert, he's on from 7 to 9 on Saturdays. And I want to tell you, he puts up a good audience for me. By the time I go on, I actually get phone calls, which is new. I'm starting a show. So Danny, thank you very much. You've been a great act, man. You're going to be the lead act soon. But when it comes to gardening, Danny's here, and he's going to answer some questions with us today. And there's Charlie right there. He's the one that puts the whole thing together. He's the boss man. He's the one that tells everybody what to do. He's the orchestra leader. Excuse me. And I was going to say, I was thinking of an administrator. He's the orchestra leader, and that's right. That's where I was going, Danny. We call him Mr. Maestro, as we do on what show's that, Charlie? You remember those episodes? Mr. Maestro, Seinfeld.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
I was just sitting here thinking, I'm in charge of everything, just like you're in charge of a room full of teenagers. You know?
Yeah.
Basically, I pay for lunch, and that's,
he herds cats is what he does. Yes.
That's exactly right. But we appreciate
you. Need to apologize in advance if my cat interrupts the show. I'm trying to herd a cat right now. You know,
I like kitties. Bring them on. I like kitties. That's my
she's
favorite
walking
one.
away. Obviously, now that we want her to come, she's leaving.
Come here.
Yeah.
And then that goes away.
I have a husky that behaves the same way. So we call our husky a cat dog because he acts like a cat. Yeah. So what we're doing here today is, just so you know, we are answering the questions that you send us at homeshowradio.com in the Ask Tom bin, but we're also answering questions that you send us here in the comment section. In fact, I should turn that on so that I can see those questions when they come in. There you go. So if you got questions, you go ahead and send it to us, and I'll see it here, and we'll put it up, and Tom can answer it, or Danny can answer it. There he is, Mr. Astro's drinking his little dome foam there. He's loosening up a little dome foam right at the beginning of the show. That's awesome, Danny. Anyway, he'll be well lubricated for us today. But we'll get to all your questions today. Here's the key. What kind of kitty you got there? It's just a...
I don't know what you're talking about. No, I'm just kidding. She's a tortie. Here she is. She's Miss.
What's a tortie? It's just a cat.
No, the tortie is the coloring there.
Oh,
so she is a rascal. Very good kitty, but really hates our other cat. So that's a lot of fun.
Tom loves cats.
I do. I'm a cat guy. I always have been. I like dogs too. Dogs are fine, but they're too much work. Cats kind of take care of themselves. That's why I like them. In
case you're wondering, I know that usually you come here. Now, if you're watching this on the Garden Pros, you're like, well, who are these two guys? You know, but if you're watching on Home Show Radio, you're like, who's that guy? So what we do is on the last Thursday of every month, we conscript Danny into being with us to answer questions that you have about gardening that we've gotten here. And we save them up so Danny can handle them since he is the Danny guy. But actually, you know, Mike has got one for you. Before we get to the ones we've prepared for you, Danny, I've got one here from Mike that just came in. He says, let me bring it up here on the screen here for you so you can see it. How do we deal with crabgrass in large areas? Smaller yards, I can understand pulling it out. But for a large area, he wants to know, is there not a better way to get rid of them, Danny?
Crabgrass is super annoying, and a lot of the organic fertilizers.
There you go.
A lot of the organic fertilizers don't help because they don't kill the roots. So the crabgrass keeps adding new roots on it. There is an awesome crabgrass killer called Agralon, and you can buy it in a big container, not just the little one that you can get at a lot of the stores, but a much bigger container. And if you use a flour sifter, you can make that powder go a lot further. But it kills crabgrass very thoroughly, and it kills the roots and everything. So Agralon, A-G-R-A lawn.
Okay, good. Groovy. All right. I'm sorry. I have this little thing. I usually have my computer open over here so I can see who's watching and say hi to them and all that. So, all right.
Yeah.
Cool. Dan, we got a question we got for you from the, I hope, Mike, if that didn't answer, let us know and we can, you're welcome to
Agrelon.
follow.
I got it. I wrote it down.
Okay. Now
But
he
if
says,
he uses a little flower sifter, it'll make it go a lot further.
Yeah,
He
me,
says
I use
thank
a
you.
leaf blower. I use a
He
leaf
said
blower
thank
to
you,
get it
but
all
if
over.
but if you look at his image, he said thank you. But if you look at his image, he really should be saying dynamite.
Dynamite.
That's right. Nice.
so-
JJ.
Boy, that takes me back. Yes.
All right. So hey, we got some other questions we have for you today from our mailbag. We can get to those with you here. Here's one from David in Shenandoah, and he says he's going to turn his lawn into organic. He just applied MicroLife Humates Plus. He says, do I still need insecticide for chinch bugs? And what about barricade for weeds in my St. Augustine grass? What say you?
So I mean, this is one of kind of the information expertise that you've got to have as you try to go organic. I'm all about a hybrid approach, doing what works, but really keeping the soil in mind as we grow stuff. So chinch bugs are one of those bugs that only like real dried out grass. You see them in the corners between your driveway and your sidewalk, along that strip between the sideway and the road. You don't really see them in the middle of the lawn. And so what you can do to fend them off going forward, and this is if you really want to do an organic lawn or as synthetic as possible, is you always make sure you check your irrigation system on a regular basis. Put it on a reminder on your phone to do it every quarter, and you will not get chinch bugs if you're irrigating all the parts of your lawn. Now, having said that, there are a lot of spinosad-based insecticides that can deal with the chinch bugs pretty thoroughly that are still organic. When it comes to the other part of the question, barricade, that is a pre-emergent herbicide, and it really doesn't do a lot of damage to the soil. And as we're trying to keep weeds out of our lawn, it's one of those ones that, no, it's not organic, but at the same time, it's not damaging the soil that we want to really keep our grass healthy. So I think you do one more year of barricade, commit to do it in October and again in February, and then as you're going organic with compost top dressing, with great fertilizer like MicroLife, then you'll start to see less weeds anyway, because the soil will be so deep and healthy that the weeds won't take hold. So that's the best bet there. One more year of barricade, and just keep checking your irrigation on a regular basis.
So it's a transitional kind of process then. You don't just go cold turkey and march on then.
Yeah, I mean, he seems very serious. He had a capital O on organic. So that's really a commitment to start that way. But when it comes down to it, we want to do what's really good for the roots of our plants. And if we're putting down an herbicide or a pesticide that's bad for the roots of our plants, then we're hurting our whole situation. A lot of people are doing stuff to their lawn that hurt their trees. And so to me, the organic approach is where you're deciding not to hurt your tree for your lawn's sake. You're figuring out some other solution that's good for both of them. And believe me, there's lots and lots of solutions.
All right. If you got a question for Danny, just like we say with Tom, you can go and put your question down in here and we'll take care of you like we took care of Mike, and we'll help you just the same way. And that's our deal. I got another one here we got from your mailbag here, though, Danny. Here's one. Jan in LaPorte, we're kind of on a lawn rant here today, says her grass will not grow in the front yard under an oak tree. And I'm sure you get this question all the time.
Yeah, it's a very common problem. Most St. Augustine grasses and all Bermuda grasses really love sun, and you think about what they're doing. They're kind of activating a chemical reaction where they take the carbon dioxide out of the air and turn it into carbon. About 40% of that carbon goes into the soil as exudate, and so there's just not enough carbon left in the plant to have kind of the vigorous growth that we expect a lawn to have. Now, having said it that way versus just saying they got to have sun means that maybe by adding carbon to the soil, we can kind of cheat the system. We'll put the carbon in the soil, and the plant can keep the carbon in the plant. And that works pretty well. And so ways to go about that are humic acid, HUMIC acid, or Dakota Rev is another one. And there's a spreadable humic acid called Humates Plus. And these things are almost all carbon, and you get them in the soil, you'll loosen the roots of the plant, you'll open it up, and you'll also feed the tree at the same time. So you'll have healthier trees, and you'll start to see a lot more vigor in that grass just by kind of taking a shortcut with Mother Nature. So I definitely hate it when I see people prune the branches of a big, beautiful tree so their grass grows better. That tree's like $20,000, and that grass is like, $400, and it's like,
right.
20,400. You tell me.
Right. Yeah. And I've seen time and time again where you wind up having to put some kind of ground cover or something there because the grass won't work.
Yeah, that's a great option too. If you're not using the space to play with your kids or your dog, or you're running around or having picnics down there, it's just as great to turn that into some bedding, turn that into space, even if it's just mulch. Plain mulch can be really kind of attractive if you know that it's protecting those trees. And so, Charlie, I think that's a great idea to kind of maybe pivot a little bit.
I don't want to get you started on mulch. We'll be here all day. So, what about you?
That's true. That's fair. That's fair.
Tom, you have a lot of big trees. Do you have problems with grass underneath yours?
I've got an oak tree in front of my house that is winning the battle of the house, the yard, the oak, the sidewalk. It's just winning. And I should have taken it down over 15 years ago when I moved there. It's so big around now at the base, I can't. It's a live oak. I can't get my arm around it, Danny. And I keep it trimmed. I keep the tree guys there. And now it's got to stay, and I have to leave. So I'm moving. No, the bottom line is you can't get anything to grow under there. My bed underneath keeps getting bigger, and it's getting to a point where I can't even plant something underneath it because it's just lumber. It's just solid lumber under this thing, and the whole thing has come out of the ground. I bet you from the street up, it's 7 or 8 feet higher than it really was when it was first planted because it's just raising up and getting so huge. So I understand, but here's my question to that, Danny. I get all these little oak shoots that want to come out through the bed that just look horrible. And of course, I want to spray them with poison, and that's not the way to do Roundup and Monsanto and all that. What do I do? Do I just have to keep snipping them every few weeks? It's been really bad this year more than any other year.
Tom, it sounds like that you're dealing with what we call compaction layers all the time. And
yeah, it is.
This is a very common problem where down under the soil, the roots are growing. Charlie, these are the roots. And then that compaction layer is there that stops them. And that's usually about a foot from the top of the soil. And your oak roots, you can't get all your oak roots in a foot. That ends up being a bad situation where so much of the nutrients, the carbon, the energy in the soil, the whole life that's in there is all adapted because those oak roots don't have the depth they need. And the way you overcome that is Humates Plus. And I don't know if you've tried to really do a heavy layer of Humates Plus under there. It's a microlife product.
Tree? Will it work its way all the way down into the ground like that?
Yeah, and if we think about what those roots are going for, right? They're going for our foundation for water. They're going for the sidewalk for water. They're going for water every single time.
I'm writing this down. Believe it or not, I am.
Deeper, yes. We can make our soil deeper. We can provide a ton of kind of soil energy, and that'll end the competition between the tree roots.
I'm going to get a picture. Tom's taking notes. Hold on a minute here.
Okay. This is great. I didn't know there was something I could do. I've asked a lot of other people, Danny. So where do I get it, and how do I apply it?
Well, I would check out homeshowgardenpros.com. And just go to the Microlife
but
where Microlife is sold. So there
is it Microlife?
HomeshowGardenPros.com.
Well, RCW, do you think I can get RCW where I go?
Yeah, Tom, RCW sells Microlife.
There you go. Okay. You got. I'm simple-minded, Danny. It's just me and you now. I don't care who's watching.
And Tom, from where you are in RCW. Champions, if RCW doesn't have it for some reason, just go the other way up 249 and Sherry up at Plants for All Seasons will have
Plants for All Seasons. They used to advertise in my magazine. Yes, I got it.
Well,
and do I just is it one of our garden pros? Just a granule or something? Wait, Charlie, wait a minute.
It's a spreader.
I'm so excited about granule. This. It's a granule. Okay. Charlie, you can come back in the conversation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Now.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate
that.
I'm no, it's all good. No, it's awesome. I think it's great. It turns out that oak trees really are the theme today because Jack wrote into us about his oak trees. He says he hears that oak trees are bad for foundations. So number one, why do builders use them? And mine are 10 years old. Is it too late to add a root barrier? And if not, are they effective to prevent the roots from hitting the foundation or driveway? So, Danny, why don't you take the tree part, and then Tom,
I can tell you why builders use them, but go ahead, Danny.
Okay, Danny, you can start with the tree, and Tom will talk about the builders.
I'm gonna use my hands some more. It's very exciting. So root barriers are awesome. I love root barriers because it's such a simple solution. It's elegant. They work for bamboo. They work for nutsedge. Anything you want to use, you have to get them that are deep enough, and it really works for protecting your foundation and also your landscape beds that they go through before they get to the foundation. If you can kind of lower that soil depth, lower that compaction zone in your soil from 6 inches in some neighborhoods, you can get it 2-3 feet, and that really can help that oak not wander as much. But when you put it in, you've got to put it in diagonal away, so the roots kind of going underground like that. So a lot of people put them in straight, and maybe they get it off. Well, the root will just go under that. If you can kind of angle a little bit, the root only comes up there, and then you're welcome to do whatever you want with this tree, if it's Tom's herbicide or anybody else's. And then figuring out vinegar is a great one for those little tree babies that come up. But that root barrier is really wonderful. I've seen it do a really great job with almost everything but Bermuda grass.
And Tom, what about the builders?
Now, Danny, you said the little babies that come up, vinegar. Did I hear you just say that?
Yeah, 20% vinegar is something you can also get at the RCW and Plants for All Seasons.
And can I just put it on those little babies and they'll quit coming up?
They're coming up because of compaction. Same reason. The tree's
Okay.
like, well, we got to do something here.
So it's the compaction. Back to the, got it, Humates Plus. All right.
Yeah, but you can kill those with a leaf killer like Miramichi or vinegar, 20% vinegar.
I like it. Now about the builder part. They buy a whole bunch of trees in bulk. The homeowners associations, whatever they're building, they have to have 2 trees out front. They don't care about the tree except they need to put it in. And so oaks are so common in this area. It's just what they buy, probably in bulk, to put them in as the neighborhood develops. They don't have to worry about the backyard, and they don't think much about it. They just need to have 2 in a yard that's very small in the front. Unfortunately, Danny, you can probably live oaks spread out more than maybe other oaks, and you could mention that. But that's the only reason, is because it's convenient and available to builders. They're not going to go, oh, let's get a maple or let's get a palm tree. They just throw the oaks in because they're simple and they're all over the place, and all you need is that stick, and you met the requirements, and the people move in and the builder's gone. It's that simple. They're not landscapers.
I've seen neighborhoods where they require 2 in the front yard and then 1 between the sidewalk and the road, and I'm like, they're literally destroying their road. Like,
oh yeah, no kidding. Call Concrete Raising Corporation. But until you get to that point, they will. But Danny, don't you think oaks are just so available? The guys just buy them by the dozens. Just those little very young, whether they're water oaks, they don't even know what they are. They just say put some trees in.
Yeah, I mean, live oaks get worked into the homeowners association. I just think people like evergreen trees so much that they want something that's evergreen.
That
even
could
though
be
there's
true.
no fall color, tons of acorns, and they do spread out a bunch and tend to do a lot more damage than almost any other tree. But I guess it's
the reason I kept
thing.
mine was it was in the neighborhood. My neighborhood was developed within the trees, so that's why I don't have any foundation damage, because the tree was already fairly well established when the whole house was built. So I have a feeling that kind of helped me on that side with the engineering side. But as far as the size of it now, it's humongous. But it's not something somebody planted. It's something they tried to save and move the house inside all the trees, which can be a problem sometimes. I tell people, cut the trees down, and then when you're done building, put the new trees in the proper distance and plan your trees better. Then both can live in harmony and not fight themselves and have a battle 20 years down the road.
Yeah, Georgianne wants to know, she wants to hear specifically, Danny, what you said. She says, did you say that it was humic acid was the product to get grass to grow under my oak tree, and she wants to know the liquid form, or is there some other form you recommend for that?
Yeah, the liquid. That's exactly right, Georgianne. That is what you're going for, is liquid form. If you're seeing sparse, slow-growing grass in the shade, it helps a ton.
All right. Well, we got one more question I want to try to get in with you, Danny, if we can. If we've got
Danny's
some time.
very popular when he comes on at the end of the month.
Apparently
I
so,
like
Tom.
this.
It's going to compress your time.
And I get to ask questions instead of answer them.
Tom likes, as they say in the flying business, Tom's kind of enjoying being in the right seat today. So it's all good. So Danny, here's a question we have for you from Bryant in Katy. He says, something is eating my hibiscus, and she doesn't know exactly what it is. Some of the leaves are turning yellow, and she sent us this picture of it. I don't know if that helps you or not.
Yeah, it looks like maybe she's got some dyed mulch there, and the yellowing doesn't look like it's that yellowing is not a pest insect problem. You see how that one that's right in the center
Let me bring it back. I'll bring it back for you. Hold on a second here.
Well,
Sorry about that. I got a little quick on the trigger here. There we go.
well, it is leaves falling off is usually not a sign of pest damage, and then we can see in that one right in the middle, it's half green and half yellow, with looks like some decay coming up. And to me, that looks like a viral problem more than it is a insect problem. And so in that situation, if that is dyed mulch, that may be your problem right there. One thing you can do is just kind of drench over the whole thing with that Dakota Rev, really great product. It'll lock up some of the dyes, it'll add a ton of nutrients, and most importantly, it'll invigorate the space with microbes. And you want to drench it over the leaves too. So little known fact is that every leaf surface is covered with bacteria, and that's a really good thing, except that our city water washes that bacteria off. That's what it's kind of designed to do, is survive in pipes. And so once we get that city water rinsing off the bacteria on our leaves, it's wide open for infestation by viruses, fungi, and other bad bacteria. And so if maybe you have a sprinkler spraying right on the plant, and I know that happens a whole lot with hibiscus, roses, and hydrangeas, and azaleas, all problematically leading them to a lot more diseases like rust or things like that. So that's what I'm seeing. I'm not really seeing a lot of bug damage on the hibiscus.
Yeah, city water bad.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to get diseases from drinking water, so I like they clean the pipes out, but maybe they don't clean it out with our drinking water. So,
We'll have to connect you up with Nancy and the guys at Aquatex, and we'll make sure you have good water at your house.
there we
Just
go.
consider that a service. Little plug for one of our home show pros. Last question
How's
for you
that?
comes from CJ Rose. I have scale on my bay leaf. What can I treat it with in this heat? And is that a factor, Danny, the heat this time of year?
The heat's a factor, Charlie, with using some pesticides that you might use, either systemic or over-the-top sprays. A lot of our insecticidal oils and soaps, too, really do a lot of damage to plants when they're put out in the summer heat like this. What you can do with scale, I'm a huge fan of doing this. The scale is a life cycle, and this time of year, it's not in the flying version of itself. It is protected under those little domes that it makes. And if you can get a pressure washer, and it sounds a little silly, but just pressure wash all the scale you see right off of there, you will not have the problem until new ones fly back. And you can put some compost around the base, just like it's mulch. So good Nature's Way compost around the base, and it'll improve the health of that plant, take away a lot of that stress, and you won't get the scale back on it here in the fall. So pressure wash, and then use that Nature's Way resources as a mulch.
Well, now you know why Danny is our home show Garden Pro ringleader. Thank you, Danny. That was awesome. So you that was a lightning round of questions for you too. I appreciate you being here. And
Yeah, you did great. I thank you very much for the answers.
If you enjoyed Danny, if you enjoyed Danny, you can catch more of him Saturday morning, 7 to 9 a.m. on Sports Radio 610 or at homeshowgardenpros.com. I'll let you in a little secret. It also streams at homeshowradio.com from 7 to 9 on Saturday mornings. And Danny always has a rotating number of local garden center knowledge experts to join him every week. Who's in with you this week?
We got Anita from Nelson Nursery and Water Gardens, and Nick from Kingwood Garden Center.
Okay, the dynamic duo will be here with Danny on Saturday morning. Like I said, if you enjoy it, be sure to tune in. If you don't, just keep it to yourself. Danny, thank you again for joining us here today.
Absolutely.
Thanks, Danny.
Yeah, if you don't like it, just download the podcast. That's all we ask you to do.
That's right. That's all right. If you don't enjoy the show, just sign up for the podcast. We'd appreciate you doing that.
That's right.
There you go.
Thank you, guys. Y'all have a wonderful
Danny,
day.
thank you. All right.
Thanks, Danny.
Love it when Danny joins us. He always brings so much to the table when he comes on the show.
I get excited because I'm a gardening, an amateur gardener, a weekend gardener.
Right.
And he helps me with everything, and I don't see him much. So when I get to get him, I just want to grab his ears and start asking him questions.
Right. Well, and if you enjoyed that, he'll be back with us again the last Thursday of every month. But he does his own show just like this on the Home Show Garden Pros Facebook page every Wednesday. I think it's at 3:30 every Wednesday, 3:30. If you sign up as a follower or whatever you do with Facebook on our page there for Home Show Garden Pros, you'll get an alert just like you get one when we start this show for you to tune in or to avert your eyes, either, no matter how you want to go at it. So I got a couple of questions came in for you while all that was going on, Tom. I want to go back to the very beginning.
Yes.
Our buddy Jibby John says about hard start kits. Before installation, it was showing on the meter 8 to 9 amps, but with the hard start kit, it kicked up to 39 amps. Aren't they supposed to reduce the load and not add it?
Yes. I'm not sure what else to say. A hard start kit is supposed to make the startup easier. So was it installed right? Is it the right kit? What's going on? I don't know. But the answer to that question is yes. It's supposed to make the startup smoother, easier, not necessary on new equipment, really necessary on really old equipment sometimes when you're trying to nurse it along, and that's when they're usually added. I was in a big conference one time, and it was with Carrier Air Conditioning in Tennessee. And somebody brought up, all the technicians were there, why don't they put hard start kits on all the units just because they're beneficial to them? And the answer was, well, we can't do it unless the others do it because it's going to raise the cost of the unit a few dollars and we can't compete. So it was all about the bottom line and competition. But they would be good on any unit, but they're mostly important on older units, and they do reduce startup usage and make it easier on the motor to start up.
Okay. Good. All right, here's one from Louis Peter. He writes into us. He says, Tom, how do you regrout brick? I have brick inlays in an outdoor concrete floor that has degraded and is missing grout. I saw them doing this the other day on one of those home shows. I think it was, I forget what show. It wasn't this old house, but they were repointing the brick. And
repointing with mortar, not regrouting. So let's make that clear. Yes.
But they're repointing them, and they're using like multiple different kinds of grout as they're going along. For the mix was different in different places. And I was like, this is not a do-it-yourself kind of thing.
Well, if you can get just standard mortar and put it in with the places that need to be done, it's pretty easy, but it's probably not going to match. And so what they're trying to do is, especially if it's this old house or something like that, they're matching those old homes. And it's very tedious work. There's a repointing tool that's like a little trowel that gets the big stuff in, and then you have to let it harden up a little bit, and then you can finish it off depending what you want. A deep line, some people want the squished out stuff look, or most of the time it's pretty flat, and then you can just take a damp sponge and go over the top of it when it's kind of set just to clean it up. And remember, clean it up well as you go. Don't let it harden onto the brick, because then you're going to have to do a heavy acid wash. But it's very tedious work, and there's a repointing tool that does it. And it's a mortar mix because it's so wide, so it has more aggregate, which is sand. And there's more sand in there. We're going all over the place here, Charlie.
I knew I'd hit the right button if I just kept hitting them. If I kept hitting them, I'd hit the right one.
I saw one, there was a woman in there. But anyway, it's the repointing tool and trying to get the mortar. If it's a standard gray, shouldn't be too big of a deal. You can buy a bag, probably more than you'll need. Mix it up kind of stiff and work it in with a repointing tool. Let it set a little bit, and then clean it with a masonry sponge. You can buy them in the same area. And don't do it real wet, but make sure you clean the excess off of the brick and just leave the mortar inside of the joint.
Sorry about that.
It's okay.
I got confused.
That's fine. I guess that still went out. I don't know.
Yeah, well, we know that everything's still working, so I'd like to test them. I've got this array of 32 buttons down here, and if I hit the wrong one, we're off the air suddenly. So I want to be careful with that. All right, here's what we got from Ask Tom. Came in. I'd like to share this one with you. He says, Brian in the Highlands says, when installing the vent for the over-the-range microwave, I'm worried about grease stains on the exterior side of the house. Will this be a problem? And if so, what do I do about it? It's related to the brick thing you were just talking about.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be a problem with grease stains. Unless you're running a restaurant and you're doing some really heavy-duty cooking. And if you ever go into restaurant grease traps and areas where they have all this exhaust equipment, it gets nasty. But they're running thousands of meals a day, hopefully, if they're in business and working well. So that's a different story. Unusual, regular homeowner stuff, any of the grease that gets caught will be caught up underneath the microwave exhaust in this case, and there's probably a way to clean that out. But it's very rare that it's going to find its way to the end in a household unit. I've never heard of such a thing, so I wouldn't even consider it being a problem. But if you use it a lot, you're doing some heavy household cooking, then you're going to have to clean it around the area underneath the microwave that's above your cooktop. That's the area where the grease will settle and get to be a problem. I know in my own that I have not a microwave, but a exhaust. There's these 2 little plastic cups that need to be cleaned and a little filter, and I put them in the dishwasher once in a while, and they clean up real nice, and then I wipe off any excess that's in there, and then I put them back in place. It's very simple.
All right. Jack's got, since we're on the brick thing, and again, this is going to be our last one because we ran long here today with Danny's questions.
That was fun. We had Danny. It was good.
We didn't get the in the news part either because we were just
use it next week. It's okay.
Yeah, I got show prep for next week. I'm good.
There you go. You're good.
All right. Jack writes to us another question for Tom. If I see what looks like a crack going along the mortar on my archway in the front of my house, is that something I should be concerned with? She says, my sister had an issue with her archway where it collapsed because they forgot brick ties. We've heard that story before.
Yeah, and it's not just the brick ties. It's because it's not a true arch. If it's not a true arch, they kind of piecemeal these things in, and it can be a problem. Now, will it be a problem as far as your foundation going bad or anything like that? No. So it's not a big structural thing, and there are brick repair companies out there that can redo this if you have a problem. Sometimes it's just a crack because there's not enough brick above it, and it's a stress point, and so a little crack will come there, but to fall down is pretty rare, so your sister's house probably did have some more serious issues. Usually they'll put a lintel across the top, and then they'll just fill a few little corner bricks in to make the archway seem like it looks pretty good if it's a shallow arch. But a true arch, like a Roman arch is what they're called, are truly a round top. And those bricks, those header bricks that go in around the top, the lintel bricks, they hold the arch in place. So they are a structural arch, but that's so rare to find any kind of Houston home. But if you look at the old aqueducts and all the old architecture that the Romans built, those are all true arches. They didn't have brick ties. They didn't have lintels. They created it with the brick itself. And it's so funny. You look at roads built by the Romans, they're still in use today. And you look at roads that we have built in America, and they're full of potholes, they're cracking, and they're doing all this. And those roads are still exactly how they were. They don't look as new, but those Roman soldiers, they built those roads. And most people don't realize the major occupation of a Roman soldier was not fighting. It was they were builders, and they built as they went. The roads, the aqueducts, the baths, the houses. They were all trained builders as well as very good fighters. They had a heck of a fighting system, but those guys built, and they built it right.
In fact, all the roads on Saba, where my grandfather was born, were hand built.
Yes.
And they're like that. You ride on them, you're like, you can't believe how long those roads have been there, and they're so smooth.
I know.
And it's like then you drive down Kirkwood over here in West Houston, and it's like you think you're driving through Beirut. It's unbelievable. So yeah,
well,
and I think doesn't that have a lot to do, Tom, with the way the soil underneath the roads are here? That you get a lot of uplift and expansion and contraction of the soil underneath the roads.
No, it's the way they're built. But yeah, that's always a factor. That's why the Romans knew. They built in Germany. They built in Italy. They built all over Europe. All the soils are different. They built in the Alps. They understood engineering and how to handle these things. Here we just follow standard practices, and you go out, drive all over Houston, whether the soil is expansive or not, it just wasn't built to handle it. And so you can build anything to handle it. And the Romans apparently just knew how to do it better. Their engineering was better because they weren't relying on all this technology and all these different materials. They had a very set group of materials and things they could use, and they used it very well. But it is totally amazing to me that you go into parking lots and stuff, you find these giant potholes and things. That's not because of soil expansion. That's because nothing is prepped right. They
it's
just
crap
get the
construction,
top smooth, and then get it going. That's
well,
it.
there's a major home builder who will go without name
Yes.
who was renowned on the west side of Houston for just dumping concrete, smoothing it out, not putting rebar in the driveway.
Told the story many times. Never saw it, but I heard it. Yes.
Yep. So, just saying. All right.
Just saying he was not Italian. He was not a Roman. Yes.
I don't know. His name ended with a vowel. He could have been Italian. I don't know. But anyway. So anyway, the next week on the In the News section, just so you know, I'll tease this out so we didn't get to it. We're going to talk about doing home repairs without tapping into your emergency fund.
Cool.
How do you pay for it? We'll cover that next week. And as for Tom, you'll find him on the radio this weekend.
Yeah, listen, I'll be on Saturday from 9 to noon. And before that, Danny, who you hopefully were watching, he'll be on 7 to 9. I don't want to use a warm-up act. He is the star beginning act. And then I come on just to land the airplane while he takes off with his huge entourage of people. And then on Sunday, of course, it's 8 to 11 on Sports Radio 610 or at homeshowradio.com.
And I'll be with Tom that first half hour asking questions and stuff. And by the way, if you have questions, on Sunday, I'd be happy to show up Saturday if you'd like, Tom. But
you're welcome to.
No.
It's fine.
I don't think people are tuning in for me. They want your questions and answers, and that's just fine. Hey, by the way, the number Jack wants to know. By the way, what is the number for the radio show? It's 281-496-5711. Now
say it slower. 281-496. 5711. Do it in twos. They'll remember it better.
Okay, that's why I said 5711, but okay.
I know what that is, but that could be 711, and it's slow. I want people to remember it. Have you ever listened to somebody on an answering machine? Okay, it's an answering machine. Hey, Tom, this is Joe. I'm just calling you because I got your number, and I really need this information. And this beautiful message, and at the end it goes, make sure you call me back at 281-456-7475.
I know that guy.
Now, you know those guys, right? The number doesn't matter, and that's the most important part of the message. Call me back. My phone number is this. That's what I want to know.
Well, if he called you, if you have an answering machine?
I'm going in the old days. I know today everybody has caller ID
on your
and
phone.
stuff.
But most of the time,
I get text. Hold on. I get text on my Android, and I don't know who it's from, and they're saying, hey, happy birthday. I hope you're doing well. How's your wife? I have no idea who it is. Because all I see is a number because I haven't put them into my phone, so I don't know who they are.
I'm going to send you one of those right now when you get done with the show.
Okay, fine.
If you'd like to get your questions on this show, by the way, go visit homeshowradio.com. Click on that blue Ask Tom button right there in the middle of the page, and it'll take you down to the page where we keep all the questions and answers section, and you fill that form out and send it to us, and we'd be happy to deal with you. Oh, one other thing before I go. I forget to do this sometimes. I want to make sure that I get to this time. Our Home Show Pros, the people Tom trusts. You'll find them at our website, too. If you scroll down, you'll see them all there. And if you're not sure who it is that does what you want, you click on the Find a Pro button, and it'll bring up this list here that sorts them by category, and that'll make it a lot easier for you to find the people that have met Tom's stringent requirements. And
just to be clear, though, because there's a lot of people watching all over the country and who knows where else. That's for the Houston metropolitan and surrounding areas is where my Home Show Pros work.
No. I've talked to them.
No.
They'd be willing to go anywhere if you'll pay the trip fee.
Oh, yeah, okay. That's for the Houston and surrounding areas.
Some of them insist on first-class air. Yeah, some want first-class air and deluxe accommodations.
But you will find good people in your neighborhoods, I promise you.
Yeah.
We're out there.
Okay. You know what? I really want to wrap this up, but you know what? You brought it up, so I'm going to make you answer the question. What are the things you should look for, Tom, if you're not in the Houston area and you look for somebody that would meet your requirements? What would be those things?
Okay, for big projects. Now, getting people to mow your yard or doing a little paint job or a little repair work, good handyman, you'll have to dig those guys up. But if you're doing a remodel project or you're building a home or you're doing some major, like a swimming pool and stuff, always ask for a certificate of insurance mailed to you from their insurance company, not handed to you, although they can hand you a copy. You want to make sure if you use them that you get one, because if they drop their insurance during the project, you will be notified. And if they have insurance, or they don't have insurance but they have copies but they're outdated, that's not going to help you. So you want it sent to you from their insurance agent. It's not a big deal. Those guys are expect to do it, and it will be mailed directly to you from their agent. That's number one. Number two is find out what bank they use, that they're a business, not just a personal bank account. And if it's a big project, like building a home or a big room addition, find out the name of the banker they deal with, call them and just say, hey, is this person in good standing with your bank? I know it seems a little odd, but it will work. I'll go through them and I'll tell you why. The other thing is find out where they buy materials. If they're a home builder, where do they buy all their lumber? If you get that name, you call accounts payable. How long you been doing business with these people? Do they pay their bills on time? And they'll tell you up front, because let me tell you, accounts payable, they don't keep no secrets. If the guy doesn't pay, they're going to let him know. All right, and then make sure they have a place of business, which means an office where you can find them during working hours, and somebody answering a phone and not an answering service. Someone's there that's taking care of customers. These are for big projects. When you ask these questions, and maybe they won't have one or two for a very special reason, that's okay, maybe. But what happens is they will say, oh yeah, we'll get back to you with all that information, and the bad ones won't get back to you. They'll be gone. The good ones will say, I got it right here, and I'll get you what I don't have, and I'll email it to you, and boom, it's done. You will get a response from the good ones. You will run off the bad ones, and nobody has to say a bad word.
Yeah, in fact, there's one more. You missed. There's a fifth one that
What
we
I missed,
recommend.
yes.
Reviews. You want to go online and
Okay.
look at their online reviews. Now, I'm going to be very specific about this. When
Yeah,
I
I'm not
say
a review
reviews,
guy, so I'm leaving
I
this to
do
Charlie.
I do not mean Yelp. Okay, specifically don't mean Yelp. And now here's the reason why is that Yelp does something that a lot of them that the other ones don't do. Yelp will only rank people's reviews who do a lot of reviews on Yelp. So they're professional reviewers. Whereas if you get a Google review, you can put one Google review up in your life and it'll rank with everybody else. So just beware of the Yelp reviews. But if you can look at the Google reviews or the Facebook reviews, the more general ones, and you'll get a good idea of what they're about. And one of the things you want to look at when you look at people's reviews is look at the responses. You know, a lot of times everybody's going to get a bad review from time to time. And I counsel my clients that you always respond to the good ones and the bad ones. So look how engaged somebody is with their business, and that's a good indicator of who they are. Fair enough?
I'm good with it.
All right, good. Well, that's it for this week. We catch Tom on the radio, and we appreciate you being here. And we'll be back again next. Where's my next button here? Where'd it go? There it is. We'll be back again next Thursday, 4 o'clock Central Time for another Ask Tom Live.
Got a question? Ask Tom on Home Show Radio. Home Show Radio. Free advice from a pro